Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on FAC Connect for our Works in Progress event showcasing Boy Mother Faceless Bloom. My name is Ryan Ben-Yagali. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a professor of music in the Department of Music at Colorado College. I'm also the college's director of performing arts. My office amplifies the role of the arts in the academic mission of the college, supporting the collaborative and creative impulses of our campus and of our community, and that includes the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. We spend a lot of time facilitating interdisciplinary connections and building bridges within the college, as well as with our local, regional, national, and international communities. I am broadcasting tonight from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and in honor of our sense of place and our region, I would like to note that Colorado College and the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College are located within the unceded territory of the Ute peoples. The earliest documented peoples also include the Apache, Arapaho, Comanche, and Cheyenne. And I ask you to join me in acknowledging these communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. Colorado College and the FAC also acknowledges that our institutions were founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous peoples. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. Now, before I introduce our guest for tonight and our host, I'd like to also acknowledge the efforts of a few of our staff members that have been working hard behind the scenes to make this all happen. That includes Kate Ferdinandi, Morgan Gatson, Julia Barrett, Michelle Winchell, Dory Mitchell, and Serena Wolford. I would also like to give a good thanks and shout out to Jessica Hunter-Larson of the Colorado College Creativity and Innovation Program, and also acknowledge support for the ongoing development of Boy Mother Faceless Bloom from the Colorado College Cultural Attractions Fund, the National Performance Network, and the Contemporary Arts Center in Cincinnati. Now, tonight's Works in Progress check-in is just one of the really wonderful many digital experiences that are available on the FAC Connect platform. I encourage you to go to that, check out that platform and all of the wonderful creative content that we've been putting up there, and return frequently because new materials added every week, a couple times a week, in fact. And also the page for tonight's program has additional information about each of the artists featured. I'm going to make their introductions very brief here because we started a little bit late, and I want to get to the good stuff with them. So the four artists that we're featuring represent an incredible collective of collaborators that have been developing this new work alongside the Colorado College campus, both in person and in the virtual realm for the last couple of years now. This group includes Senga Nengudi, Eddie Kwon, and the Degenerate Art Ensemble comprised of Nishimura and Joshua Kohl. Their respective biographies are extensive and given in full on that FAC Connect website. So now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome to the screen Katja Rivera, who is the Fine Arts Center's Curator of Contemporary Art and our host for this evening. Katja, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's wonderful to see you. I'm so excited for tonight's event.
Me too.
Well, I'm gonna pop off and let you get to work, and I will look forward to enjoying everything alongside you all.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that introduction. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Just want to start by thanking Ryan again, and then extending a very special thanks to the artists who will be joining us tonight: Eddie, Senga, Crow, and Joshua. It's such a rare opportunity to get to talk to artists who are in the midst of a project about their process, and I hope that you are as thrilled and grateful as I am that the group took time out from their very busy schedules to be with us here this evening. As Ryan mentioned, there's many people sort of behind the scenes that I'm also thankful for: Kate and Julia, who are making this program possible, of course. And also want to give a quick shout out to Jessica Hunter-Larson and Ryan Platt, who were part of early conversations surrounding this project. And I feel very honored that they so graciously and happily welcomed me to the team. Just a quick overview of the events, of the order of the events tonight. I'll briefly introduce the projects that the artists have been working on, and we will then watch an in-process video that they've put together for us Following the screening, we'll invite the artists on the screen and have conversations about the project, and hopefully there will still be some time for audience questions also. So let's get started. Since 2018, the artists Senga Nengudi, Eddie Kwon, and the Degenerate Art Ensemble co-artistic directors Crow Nishimura and Joshua Kohl began collaborating on a multimedia performance work. The work, entitled Boy Mother, Faceless Bloom, combines large-scale sculptural and scenic design, live and recorded music, and embodied movement to tell the story of a young boy who learns he will be a mother. Drawing upon the combined personal mythologies of Nengudi, Kwon, Nishimura, and Kohl, Boy Mother explores transgender identity, parenthood, and ancestral lineage in a time of planetary crisis, and the spiritual legacies of colonialism, imperialism, and the ideologies of domination. It's a project, in other words, that feels increasingly relevant and urgent to our present moment. The project is co-commissioned by Colorado College and the Contemporary Arts Center Cincinnati and has received support from the National Performance Network. And if all goes well, we anticipate premiering the final work in 2022, conditions permitting, of course, at Colorado College. And we'll begin the program tonight by sharing the video created by the artist that provides a sneak peek of the work in process and an insight into the process of collaboration. We encourage you to view the work in full screen and turn that volume up. So without further ado, here's the work.
An hourglass. An hourglass attached to her back has a pinhole in its side. The sand it contains drains with every step taken. With every step taken, a trail forms, a lifeline marking her existence on the land. It appears to weave into a landscape of time dials that watch. Clock her movements. Eyes taped open, wide-eyed, then squinting, observing, trying to mark her progress, sometimes spinning in place. Time control is so illusionary. Time in, time out, timeless in between. Moving past where landscapes and time exist, she reaches a luminous portal. She enters. Taped eyes still watching, riveted, watching. This portal is meant to entice, meant to bring her closer to that place where when she turns sideways, then upside down, she may slip into the unknown with ease and faith to be transformed.
What do you want to excavate? Hold, confront, and transform. My vessel dream wanders among the collective sufferings, moved by the currents shape-shifting. My being feels your ghosts in these gestures, voices, ways of being. Not aware, dream walking, carrying enormous soul electricities. They hold its toxicity within their membranes. Quantum beings, one in the dark. One in the light. Working in tandem. Releasing this energy to our mother trees. Who launder with energetic dialysis and releases it cleansed to the sky.
Wonderful. Welcome back. And let's have the artists join for a conversation. Crow and Joshua, Senga, welcome. Eddie, welcome. Thanks for being here with us. Just a quick note, I think we noticed backstage that the sound didn't quite translate, so we'll be sure to make the video available on FAC Connect so that everybody can experience the full volume of the video. But let's get started. Thank you all again for being with us tonight. And just to start off the conversation with, I wonder if you all could talk a little bit about, you've been working on this project since 2018. How did this collaboration start, and how did the conversations around this project in particular start?
Senga, do you want to take this one?
On mute.
All right. Yeah. I guess I'm sort of the connecting link between everyone. I worked with Crow in Seattle on a project that I do, which is activating my sculptures. And she was so kind and generous to be willing to do that, because after her saying, yes, I'll do it, I looked up Degenerate Art Ensemble, and I was just blown away at what they do and everything. It's just amazing what she and Joshua do. So I was very excited and just humbled by the fact that she would take on this project. And later on, I met Eddie. We are both United States Artist Fellows, and I met him in Chicago, and there were many activities that they had surrounding the whole thing of giving the awards. And he performed one night, and I just again was blown away because he's such a skillful violinist, but so doggone quirky. I said, oh yeah, I love quirky. So I don't know, I think I just started telling him as we were sitting next to each other about Crow, and he goes, oh my gosh. And the ensemble, Degenerate Art Ensemble, and he became intrigued, and they started corresponding, he and Crow. And then when you go to these things, everybody says, oh yes, we have to get together and do a collaboration. I mean, it's always the case, and it rarely happens. But in this case, there was such chemistry that, between us, we just kind of started pushing in that direction. And that's how it came to be.
Does anybody else want to add? I'm also curious. So you all came to Colorado Springs in 2018 to start working together, right? How did you already know you were going to sort of develop this particular project around these themes, or was that when the conversation started?
That's when the conversation started. And because I live in Colorado Springs and have, a loose connection with Colorado College, I suggested that, we might try and figure out a way we could collaborate. So they were so generous and gave us the opportunity to do so, lodging and space to work and so on. So that's why everyone came to the Springs. Eddie was in Cincinnati at the time, Crow and Joshua in Seattle. So this was a spot where we could all get together and actually finally be at the same place at the same time and really try and figure out how we wanted to approach this whole thing.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you all about then, that you started by collaborating together in person Eddie, you came, you traveled, Crow and Joshua, you came and traveled and you worked together. And now, given the pandemic, so much has worked, we've moved online. Conversations have moved online, collaborations have moved online. And this project also, to some extent, you guys you've had to all communicate and work together digitally. So I'm curious, how did you translate those themes into this format that you've created in the video tonight? And how were you able, was that useful at all for your process and thinking through sort of what you had started 3 years ago?
We had actually a lot of almost bi-weekly, should we say, meetings on Zoom. It was first when we first got together, I was madly in love with Eddie and Singa and their work so much. And it was from an email to reaching out to looking at each other's work to then it became three-way phone call conversations about what we care about in the world, what's making us feel this way or that way. There's a lot of honest, intimate conversations that started from a phone call and then a bi-weekly Zoom. This is in the pandemic. And we just kept each other in communication about, I think, the themes and what we wanted to explore and what we care about. And I think that was the key to blossoming into, let's make a film because it's a Zoom format. Yeah.
I also, one of the interesting things for me about the fact that it had to go in 2020 and up and through now, virtual, is that when I was putting together the soundscape, the soundtrack, which I highly encourage you to watch it when it gets posted because you couldn't really hear it. But when it actually gave me space and time to go through a lot of the stuff that we did in person. Because a lot of times if we had been in residence together, it'd be make something new, make something new, make something new. But I had to actually go in and, in addition to creating some music for this, also go through and, there's in that film, there's some like a duet between me and Eddie that we did in Seattle in a studio moment. And there's some percussion ideas that Eddie had created, some string improvisations and a lot of things that able to because by necessity, can't be together to, live in person, really gave me a really exciting opportunity to go through our kind of archive that we've been creating together and sort of sculpt something together out of that.
Super interesting. And that actually leads me to another question that I had, which is you all are coming from, you all have your own practices, individual practices, and working in visual art, performance, dance, music, movement. How are you all bringing your practices to bear on this project, and how are you finding ways to use your individual expertise to collaborate on this project?
I think one of the really special and meaningful parts of this collaborative group, I know for me especially, has been this opportunity to be a beginner and to try and explore in different mediums and forms and pathways that, maybe, for me, I felt for so long that I was like a dancer that was trapped in a block of cheese. And I never knew how to express myself in that way. But I always knew it's something that I wanted to try. And so this project and being able to work with Crow and Senga and be mentored by them as I start to go deeper into my own movement practice has been so extremely special. And it's also been really scary, when you're starting any kind of collaboration, let alone a collaboration with artists that you deeply admire and respect. You want to bring your absolute best, and you want to be able to contribute in the best way that you can. And for me, I think the safest way to go would be kind of maybe as a composer or as a violinist, zeroing in on the music and the sound. But I knew that movement and dance was something, and being in my body and exploring how that felt was really important to me, even though I didn't know how to do it at the time. And so I feel so lucky and fortunate that everybody in this group not only like tolerated or let me try these new things, but really encouraged me and nourished me. I think that's really indicative of the kind of collaborative environment that we've been trying to cultivate this entire time, a space in which we don't have to be experts, and we don't have to always do the thing that we're really good at. We can actually explore and fail and try new things and see what sticks and what doesn't. But it's such a safe and supportive, loving little family, little world that we've built. And for me, kind of stepping back, that seems to be like one of the most important parts of this project. Like the project is kind of a vehicle. The themes and the mediums and the materials and the form that, the shape that it takes is kind of a vehicle or a structure. But really what we're trying to do is like, create a version of reality where we can all be ourselves and we can all be free and we can live for a short time in the world that we want to live in, whether that's digitally over Zoom like this or, in the past when we've been fortunate enough to be in person. So that is really what resonates with me.
I want to quickly add to, it just reminded me, Eddie, of what we were doing in the process of our rehearsals. And you would think it would be a dance and a music, but we had a lot of laughter of like saying, breaking it up and saying like, oh, did you see that hip hop video? We have to learn that movement. Or, oh, this Japanese podcast, which is like really hard too. Like with Chinese movement, oh my God. And we have to like break it up and just totally like, with so much laughter and freedom, like we have to try something new, and we don't know what the rehearsal sometimes was going to be. And it was such a, for me, humbling, like, okay, we just have to embrace different ways of how playful you can be and creative you can be. And yeah, and Eddie, I have to say, I feel the same way as a beginner, feeling deeply about learning about from you, like even things about like, even small things like, actually it's big, but pronouns, like how I'm learning, I'm like an older generation and stumbling through how to learn and like just like the what it was in civil rights movement, like I want to live with the times, and the Zikas and you are teaching us and being very patient, and yeah, let's put that out.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing just so that it doesn't pass by. We've invited 2 other additional artists
Right.
into the collaboration for video projection, cinematography, and video editing, and they're out there somewhere in the cyberspace watching tonight. Ian Lucero and Leo Mayberry, who really helped us with putting this presentation together. And really also 2 incredible lifelong collaborators of ours that are dear friends and are part of this project now too.
So the collective is growing. The collaborations are growing. That's really wonderful. And it sounds like it's a really generative space that you all have created. And Eddie, I'm curious to hear more too, when you're talking about sort of creating the space of possibility. Some of the themes that you all have described as wanting to interrogate or to use themes around identity and colonization and the way that that's passed down through generations. Can you all talk about how you were sort of drawing on those themes in the video in particular, and how because it's interesting how there's certainly narrative elements coming through the video, but you're also letting it be very poetic and open at other points, right? So I'm curious to hear more about how you're sort of processing those themes in your work.
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I can speak to it really quickly. First, I just want to reiterate the fact that I think the most important thing and the most powerful thing that the four of us can do when we're in our process is create a space where we can feel free. Because when I think about the other parts of life, this life that we all share together, you know, I find that very rarely do I truly feel free? Do I truly feel safe? And I have a feeling that, you know, there are a lot of people that share a similar experience. And as artists, we have such, hopefully, we have these opportunities when working together where we can create these little pockets where we can experiment and create a space where we can truly feel free. I mean, it sounds very simple, but I think that in and of itself allows us to then, in that safe space, dive really deeply into some of these themes, some of our personal histories, both real and imagined, and start to excavate, like Crow said, knowing that what we excavate within this group is not something that we have to confront alone, but because we've built this life together, that we can take a look and smell and touch them together.
I would like to just add that what I find really interesting is that I know in working together with Crow, but I'm also discovering this in new ways with Senga and Eddie, that in a creative process, you can be really talking about the things that are on your heart, that you're talking about the things that are on your mind, that are around you in the culture, and the issues that are motivating you to be a creative person. And those things come in through us, and they mingle among our imaginations and our dreams. And then in the studio, when it comes to creating imagery, a lot of the times it's not so obvious even to us what the relationships are between the ideas that we are thinking about and feeling about. I'd say more feeling about than thinking about, what the relationship is that between that and the actual image that comes out in the end. And for example, you know, those long strings and the long shadows, you know, came out, the strings themselves came out of, and Senga, of course, tell me if this is inaccurate, but really came out of a play with materials. And yet, when we're playing, Crow is in the studio experimenting and pulling these strings and just experimenting, how do they move? What do they do? What kind of, you know, textures we can find? And then Senga brings in a poem. And that poem then is read in juxtaposition with this image. And when the image then starts taking on the meaning of these lines, could be ancestral lineages, and, you know, this kind of meaning sort of start emerging almost magically out of material in a certain way. And also, you know, then Crow came up with the idea of doing those things. We had originally filmed them in the studio at Colorado College, doing it on the sand, and realizing Senga's poem is talking about sundials, and so there's like a lot of subconscious activity going on as a layer to play in amongst these socio-political and conceptual ideas.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, just really speaks to the power of this collaborative process too, right? Senga, is there anything you wanted to add about maybe also specifically about the materials? I was wondering in watching the video, I noticed there's a lot of very recognizable materials that you all had repurposed, bubble wrap or different kinds of wrapping paper. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the materials that you used? Oh, Senga, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Are you sure you want me to unmute myself? Okay. All right. Yeah, in my own practice, I'm always dealing with materials and trying to have a relationship with those materials and seeing what they want me to do. We kind of play together and then things start evolving from that. And so we also had time in Cincinnati with Eddie where we all, curiously enough, it was exactly a year ago today that we were in Cincinnati. And I had a great time going through their thrift stores and salvage yards and so on. And so some of the materials you see in the piece were from that. And yeah, they just take on their own energy, their own, I would say, almost mythological energy, even though they're the simplest of materials. That is what excites me, that you can take the simplest of materials and make them grand, unique, mystical, all of that, right, with stuff you have right in your own, your own house. And Eddie recently moved to Brooklyn, so he has all the bubble wrap anyone could ever want as he unwraps all of his belongings and so on. So yeah, materials are very important to me and my process, my artistic process.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to, if for those watching, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to ask, or comment at this time. We'd love to have you join the conversation. While we're waiting for people to maybe gather some thoughts or questions, maybe I can ask just a kind of final two questions. One is, I'm curious if you all have talked about or discussed at all sort of how you envision the project moving forward. Like, what are the next steps for you now, and what are your, maybe anticipate is too loaded of a word, but what do you hope might be the next steps for the project?
I'm hoping the way things are going that we might, in the next couple of months, actually be able to get together again. Because, the Zoom thing is fine and we've been working with it, but there's a certain kind of energy and electricity that happens when we're all together and bouncing off each other. And the residencies that we've had, we've been able, which started with CC, we've been able to be together 24/7. So that was actually wonderful in terms of, what ifs. We just turn over and there they are, they're, and so we could really hash out things no matter what time it was.
Wonderful. Well, I'll add a question that we have from Ryan for you all. He asks, we have a lot of students attending this presentation. How can they form collaborations while we are still at a distance environment? So what is your recommendation for students?
I think we're going to have a session tomorrow with where we're going to cover all of that. So I don't know if we want to reveal anything.
You have to attend the class tomorrow.
Yes,
it's all about
exactly.
Classified information.
I would say, but just do something that you want to try right now, whether it's over Zoom or have an idea. I feel like one thing is just to go for it, because this pandemic could, not, I mean, might last 10 years, who knows? Like a stronger, virus might come out. Like, it's like, seize the day and just go for it. That's our advice.
Yeah, and I would just add like a couple of practical things. Where, even though that we're in this distance environment, communication can still be really fluid, which is really great for collaboration. There's so many different platforms that you can use, even something as simple as Google Drive. It's a way for you to have a shared space and jot ideas down and share images and videos. So one suggestion would be to like really think of the technology as one part of your collaboration. Don't try to ignore it or pretend like it doesn't exist, or try to do something that you would normally do in person and just assume that it'll translate, because it just is very different. And then the other suggestion would be to like try to find opportunities for intimacy, like ways to connect, ways to make things feel special. Like everything doesn't have to be a Zoom call. Sometimes it could just be a phone call, and sometimes that feels really special, and it brings new ideas because you're not distracted by like looking at the screen, and your eyes can wander and you don't feel bad about it. So I don't know, just like little things, or handmade things, writing letters, or I think there are ways to still make it feel special.
That's great advice. That's some really concrete, practical advice. I love that, and really love the suggestion too of switching up communication in different ways. We're also programmed now to hop on the Zoom, but trying out different ways of communicating. I think you're right. It totally opens up new ways of thinking, or it's just experiencing a certain conversation. It's wonderful.
And I just want to shout out Senga, because Senga's really good at that. It's like Senga's always sending us little things in the mail or little surprise packages. I open it up, it's from Senga, and I've, totally unexpected, sending
birthday songs on voicemail.
Yeah. Birthday songs. You feel so loved, so special.
Digital love.
Yeah.
And actually, Senga is the master of emojis and GIFs.
Yes.
And now Zoom backgrounds too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, maybe just a final question to wrap up, if there's no other audience questions, but I'm just curious, what is inspiring you all right now? What out in the world is interesting to you? What's inspiring you to make work, or just what work are you enjoying? Share with us what's interesting for you all right now.
I think Senga said this the other day, and it was really rattling in my head, but it's definitely all the collaborators that I'm working with right now in this project, in other projects. For me, the incredible artist peers who are trying to navigate through this pandemic, how to share their work in every innovative possible way. And those are incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, we are in a very interesting time historically, and everyone's trying to rush towards the new norm. You know, when will the new norm happen, and so on. And right now, I feel like I'm stepping out on a platform and observing a new world. I think normalcy is gone. So I'm stepping out in a world that can now be formed in any way I want to form it, or I have to look around and see, you know, what's going on, and a new language and everything is new, and everybody kind of wants to go back to what's normal, but that's not, as far as I'm concerned, that's not accessible anymore. This is new. This is brand new. We're stepping out. We're stepping out, maybe sometimes without even something under our feet, but we are stepping out into something new. And because it's new, it can be formed in most exceptional ways. So.
Very true.
We're here to do it.
Wonderful.
I'm also really have been inspired by the quiet times that we've been able to have, and I feel like for me personally has been an opportunity to deepen the work that I do. We've, you know, as artists, like we have 10 different jobs. You know, we have to make money over here, and then we have to, you know, do our performance, and then we have to do the fundraising for it, and then we have to, you know, promote things, and, you know, build things and break things down and all that kind of stuff. And sort of half of that disappeared over 2020 for us. And it's been a chance to really deepen that, the other half, you know, like really go deeper and more thorough and kind of reevaluate a lot of things. And that to me has been really inspiring to hopefully be able to carry some of that energy into the future.
I've been thinking about how to respond, and I think I'll just be really specific because recently I've just really enjoyed doing a lot of learning, and I've been I've had some time to just dig into some histories and stories that I didn't know existed, and it has some connection to actually a big connection to this project. So I'll share a little bit because I'm really excited about it. But I've been learning more about early 1900s Korean trans shamans and the role that their kind of gender bending, gender transgressive performances and rituals were a way to both like resist colonial occupation, imperial occupation and assimilation. It was a way to earn money and support their communities and make sure that their chosen families survived into the next generation. It was a way to keep their practice and their traditions alive. And because they occupied this kind of in-between liminal space, they kind of they also were able to access certain spaces that either cis male performers or male shamans weren't able to access, and as a result, we're kind of able to leverage a certain amount of cultural power within their communities. And so they're kind of playing a lot of sides. They're kind of at the edges and making the Korean nationalists upset because they're too close to the Japanese colonizers, and then the Japanese colonizers, feel sympathetic because they have some kind of spiritual shared space together, but at the same time they can't trust them because they're indigenous Koreans, and so they're kind of pissing everybody off, and like entertaining and serving people and taking care and healing, just these like incredibly, just amazing people. And the way that they use this playfulness of gender performance, really, in a spiritual way, as a way to keep their communities whole, to resist oppression, and to get paid. Like, all of these things are really inspiring me right now. This example of this small community of people that there's hundreds of years ago were really active. So I've been learning about that, and just amazed at these ancestors and these stories that I'm only stumbling upon now.
That wonderful, yeah. It's interesting hearing you all respond, and it just makes me think how you all are drawing from the past and the present to create a vision for the future with this project. And it's really, and I'm inspired by all of you. So just want to say thank you again, Eddie, Senga, Crow, Joshua. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your process and for being with us here tonight. Yeah, and we'll see you all soon and keep up with your project. Thank you again.
Thank you. And before we stop, I just want to say a big thank you. Thank you to you, Katja and Ryan and Jessica.
Huge.
Jessica.
It is so rare, and I know we all feel this way, but it's so rare to have an institution like Colorado College and the Fine Arts Center support this project just like unconditionally, to be able to have the space and the time to explore, to come in and just be able to try lots of ideas and see what emerges. And it has been such a gift. So thank you so much for giving us and sharing this space. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So much gratitude to all of you.
Can't wait to be in Colorado again and bring this stuff into 3 dimensions.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait to welcome you. Yeah, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't hang up yet, because they're going to hang up.
Oh, don't hang up.
It said, no, don't hang up. Don't hang up.
Is anybody there?
We're
Yes,
here. We're waiting.